So quite some time ago, I did a review on Avatar. Now at the time, Avatar was the second highest box office film ever, and this film was at #1. Now coming around to do a review on Endgame, it's swapped. This is now the second highest grossing movie of all time, and Avatar has retaken the first place in a pandemic, which was quite impressive. But what else have I found wrong with this film? Join me, I'm Berryman81, and this is 10 Things Wrong with Avengers Endgame. Avengers Endgame is a 2019 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics superhero team The Avengers, and it's a sequel to 2018's Infinity War. The film follows on from Infinity War, where after their loss, they go after Thanos to try and reverse what he's done, only to find he's destroyed the Infinity Stones, where the team now have to live out their lives knowing that they failed. The film itself has actually received praise for its direction, acting, musical score, action sequences, well actually you name it, it got praised for it. Its monetary wise actually overtook what Infinity War made in 11 days. But what have I found wrong with this film? Well, here are 10 things wrong with Avengers Endgame. Number 10, battle damage. The start of this film, it shows Tony Stark and Nebula stranded in space on the Guardians of the Galaxy spaceship, which has been damaged in battle. What battle would that be then? Because if you watch Infinity War, the ship wasn't in the battle. Now granted, Thanos did drop a moon on the planet, so it is in theory possible the ship got damaged, but we never saw that. Now when the ship comes back to Earth, you see some of this damage. It does look like it's been fired upon. By what? You can't say the ship's been damaged without showing us how the ship got damaged. I want to know these things. Number 9, half of all life. So as I said in the previous film, Thanos won. He wiped out 50%. Now, in this film, Natasha Romanoff says 50% of all living things. Now, does that include cattle, chickens, fish? Does that include plants? Because whether you like it or not, scientifically speaking, plants are living organisms. Did half of them die? Because the thing is, if they did, then it was for nothing. If you're wiping out half the population and then wiping out half the food source, you're not really solving anything. Did he mean 50% of all sentient life or 50% of all life? Maybe someone should do a film theory video on this. Number 8, I know, but not really. So they're trying to figure out where Thanos has gone to after his attack in Wakanda. And they're saying, we're scanning. And Nebula goes, I know where he is. He's at the garden. Well, where's the garden? Well, I don't know. Well, that really doesn't help. Really doesn't help. It's like, that's like the whole hashtag sorry not sorry type thing. I know, but I don't really. And to make it worse, they actually did know, and they didn't need Nebula to do that line in the first place. It wasn't a good line to put in this film, really. Number 7, the world is a dump. So majority of this film, it actually takes place 5 years after the previous film, which is fine, I get that. But why is the world still a dump? The world's infrastructure is still sort of there. You've got the means to keep the world tidy, but there's rubbish everywhere. Football stadiums are crumbling apart. Boats are just falling apart and not being used. No, a lot of this would still, after 5 years, the world would have some sort of normality. I mean, they built these monuments which are looking amazing, but no one sorted out the garbage? No, the world wouldn't have been a dump. The world would still be in mourning, but it'll be okay. It wouldn't look like an apocalypse happened. Number 6, relationships. So something that started during Avengers Age of Ultron was a bit of a budding relationship between Bruce Banner and Natasha Romanoff. And they sort of touched that in Ragnarok as well. And in Infinity War, it's like, oh, we're back. Even Falcon said this is going to be awkward, which it was. But in this film, there's nothing. No hint, no nothing about their relationship or what happened between them. Granted, he's now a Hulk permanently, but you could have said something why their relationship didn't go anywhere. Number 5, time machine. So in Ant-Man and the Wasp, they use a machine to enter the quantum realm. Okay, now all that is basically you shrinking so small to get into it. Now in this, they start using that, and then Tony Stark comes up with these handheld devices so they can navigate everywhere. Why do they now still need a bigger machine? Because let's face it, they don't actually need it. When the stuff in 2012 goes awry, Captain America and Tony Stark used the devices, hand devices to go somewhere else. They didn't use the machine at all. So why do they need this big machine? The handheld devices does what the machine does. Also would have counteracted the whole thing happened at the end of the film, because they could have just used that, off they go. The machine is pretty much redundant with the handheld devices, isn't it? Number 4, Captain America v Captain America. Now I am so glad they actually put this scene in this film. Captain America versus Captain America. It was brilliant. Now granted, the 2012 version thought that the 2023 version was low-key, which is understandable. The bit that's not understandable is the 2023 version has a lot more battle experience. He's come up to date with our fighting skills. He would have known how to beat 2012's Captain America. Yet the 2012 Captain America whooped the 2023's Captain America's ass. Now granted, he did use some dirty tricks towards the end to try and win, but let's face it, the 2012 Captain America, who's just been in a massive battle, was better. That wouldn't have happened, would it? Number 3, it's all Nebula's fault. See, this film gets a lot of stick for the rat, saying it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the rat. Also, Infinity War gets a lot of stick because it wouldn't have happened if Peter Quill actually kept his cool. Understandable, but here's another one. It's all Nebula's fault. Seriously, look at the film. After she's actually recovered from Thanos probing her mind, does she use the device to run away? No, she goes back to the ship. Granted, I sort of see where she's going from. She's trying to warn the other people in that time zone, but it's not working. Thanos starts beaming her up. At that moment, you should have used the device and gone. But you didn't, you stayed. And then you got escorted somewhere into a cell where another version of Nebula is interrogating you, and that is where you lost your handheld device. You had plenty of time to use that device to get away. Now, if you'd done that, Thanos wouldn't have actually appeared in 2023 to attack Earth then. And maybe Tony Stark wouldn't have died. It's all Nebula's fault. I blame Nebula, not the rat or a Peter Quill. Number 2, deleted scenes. So with a film that's over 3 hours long, you can understand that there are scenes that are deleted, and you can understand for timing and stuff like that. However, there are 2 scenes they should not have deleted because they were in the first film, and that was the post-snaps, and that was it. Now, Bruce Banner had one, Tony Stark had one. Tony Stark's one was actually really heart-moving. You should have kept it in because it would have just flowed. It would have carried over from the first film. Now, if you didn't have them scenes in the first film, I would have understood that. But why have them in the first film, but not the second film? They weren't that long, it wouldn't have added too much, and they were quite important scenes. There are other scenes you could have deleted. Like Nebula going, I know, but not really. That would have been a good scene to delete. Number 1, extra Pym Particles. So Nebula brings Thanos' ship 9 years to the future. But how? They had no Pym Particles. Now granted, Captain America and Tony Stark actually got some Pym Particles from the past, but Thanos wasn't there. So how did he get Pym Particles to bring his ship through? That's a big plot point there. Final thoughts. This has got to have been the most hyped film in cinematic history. Now I know some people are getting really hyped up for the Avatar sequels, and probably the last film that was this hyped up was the Matrix sequels, but no film has ever been as hyped as this before. And luckily, this film delivered. It was absolutely fantastic. It was brilliant. It carried on from the last film. It was a proper sequel. And the thing that makes me laugh is one of the criticisms from the last film was it relied too heavily on previous films. This film also, and in fact more so, relies on stuff that happens in previous films, yet didn't get criticised for it. You gotta love movie critics when they don't actually flow on. Everything was brilliant. It was so emotional. And the one thing is, it's actually made confirmed that deaths are permanent. One thing that people were worried about from Infinity War was, are people going to stay dead? Everyone kept their mouth shut, which is why I didn't mention it in the last video, because let's face it, Disney have that habit of bringing people back, and they wiped out too many people. We already knew Spider-Man was coming back because they released the Spider-Man trailer before this film came out. So everyone was a bit hesitant. But people stayed dead. In fact, more people died in this. No Black Widow, no Iron Man, they died in this film. Granted, Loki came back, but it's a different Loki, which is where the TV series is coming from. So the original Loki stays dead. And the story is brilliantly. A whole hour on the final battle, you would think would drag on, but it wasn't. Same as the last film, I went to see a premiere of this, and I was working at the time, and I finished work, went straight to the cinema to see a midnight viewing of this, and then went home, and then had to get up 2 hours later to go to work again. I thought I was going to struggle watching this, but I wasn't. Sitting in a cinema for 3.5 hours, and I stayed awake. This film kept my attention the whole way through. It's not as action-packed as the last film, but it's still very good. It's good story, it's good storytelling done right. And that's where the MCU does well. It tells the stories correctly. So what am I going to rank it? You know, last week I gave Infinity War 10 out of 10. It's only fair that I give this a 10 out of 10 as well. Oh, look at that. 2 weeks of films of being 10 out of 10. Next week, I'm gonna have to not do a film that's definitely not gonna be a 10 out of 10. But what did you think of this film? What would you rank it? Would you still give this film a 10 out of 10? Let me know in the comments below. And as I said, next week I'm definitely doing a film that's not a 10 out of 10. And it's a film that was a remake of a Japanese film that is, I'm only doing just to completely and utterly wind up John Joe. He's gonna hate me. Oh well. So come back next Sunday, 6 PM, and I'll find out what film I'm doing. Take care, bye-bye.